You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performance was just lacked that intensity.
Usual caveat before this starts, I don't agree with everything that Nathan says. That's all. Just getting that out there.
Usual caveat, Cullen forces me to put some of these things in there so that, we'll talk about them at some stage. Well, listen, if we're all throwing each other under the bus on a Monday morning, why should I stop? All right, let's start in the red. Connacht rugby, very harsh. And Connacht who put up a brave display against Leinster on Friday night, beaten 10-0. I wouldn't hone in on the 0. Another night, Connacht probably would have kicked a few penalties, but were going for corners, going for territory, trying to get themselves a try to really give themselves an opportunity to win the game, and nothing quite worked out. It wasn't that dissimilar to the week before against Munster, where they won the game, but they should have absolutely taken Munster to town and missed an awful lot of chances. And they just weren't particularly convincing any time they went into the Leinster half. It did feel a little bit at times like it was men against boys, that you knew all of Leinster's experience would count and that Connacht would make a mistake, and time again, just when Connacht were inside the 22, the ball was turned over. Leinster were able to produce a big play at the right time.
Yeah,
get out of danger.
There's one specific break that leads to the last penalty that takes Connacht out of losing bonus point territory, and there's a bit of an incident at the ruck. Josh van der Fleer makes 60 yards and then the penalty gets conceded and the penalty gets kicked, and it's like ball game at that stage. At that stage, they had an attacking platform and they all kind of stopped thinking, well, we're going to get a penalty here, and they didn't get the penalty, and that's a massive shift in the result of the game. So it's a bit of a sliding doors moment. Now, the better team won. They have better players. They have a much bigger budget. I think Connacht losing by 10 points to Leinster, it's not really the worst performance they're ever going to have.
No, they had enough to keep them in the game. They just didn't have enough to win it. So in the first half, actually, when Leinster were playing very well, Connacht were very resilient. They got a couple of really important turnovers from a couple of line-outs. They defended valiantly on their own line. It was just when they went up the other end and they needed that extra bit of quality or a bit of composure, they were lacking. But maybe that's every team when you go up against this Leinster side. It's not like playing anyone else.
Yeah. Hopefully Leinster's performance is a harbinger of them clicking into that level of gear. Because the previous week, they put up, 45 points against a good quality South African side at home. So, I'm not throwing Connacht under the bus here, but I can see why they would be in the red. I'm sure they're very disappointed about it.
It's one win now in 5.
What's notable is that Munster are not in the red. We will get to them a little bit later, and we'll do plenty of celebration, I suspect, from Alan Quinlan or relief more than celebration, I think, about the quality of the performance they put in. And where the quality was coming from, it was the kids, and it was right, whew, okay. But we should also mention Ulster going to South Africa and winning, and Mike Lowry, he's very good. It's just going to be one of those careers that is on the fringe of being incredibly important for Ireland, but maybe not getting the opportunities, or he's going to make it all the way. And if he does, then we're going to be very exciting to watch for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah,
you could be in the position where Hugo Keenan does a Rob Kearney and gets another 6, 7 years at full back, and nobody ever gets an opportunity. Is the jury still out in Ulster? It feels like it's not, but then we're still 2 months away from Champions Cup. They need to be getting consistently to Champions Cup semi-finals, finals. Yeah, look, and their big money signing isn't coming until after the World Cup. And you're like, wow, that's great, the World Cup's imminent. And it's not really imminent. Rugby transfers are a dangerous business, aren't they? With the amount of injuries, signing somebody and saying, see you in a year's time, pal. After you play the most attritional tournament there could be. Come here fresh and ready.
Yeah, for a lot of money. I mean, look. I think it's a big opportunity for them this season. They largely, most of their players are coming back to fitness. I mean, obviously, you really hope that Stockdale. I haven't seen the diagnosis in the latest ankle injury, but how bad it's going to be, and you'd always have concerns about Henderson's injury profile. But if by and large they can have a season where their best players aren't out for 5, 6, 7 months and are actually playing together a bit, they've got an incredibly exciting backline. That's the thing that I think is going to make sure that Ravenhill's full every Friday night.
They got La Rochelle in the Champions Cup.
It'll be a good game,
Have to see.
It'll be interesting. Right, that's the first one in red. What else?
Sorry, Ger. I think you probably agree with this one. Do you? Aston Villa back in the red. Though Stephen Gerrard said it was an outstanding performance against Chelsea yesterday.
It was a much better performance, right? Like they were unlucky in that very good chances were missed, and they had a goal-match scramble almost as good as the Republic of Ireland women's team against Scotland, where you're like, goal, it's going to be goal. No, it's coming now. No, it's going to happen now. Oh, Jesus. How did it not happen? Look, Chelsea weren't very good. Villa were better than I expected them to be. I wouldn't have been terribly surprised. If it had finished 1-1, it probably would have been a fair result. I think the XG was definitely in Villa's favour.
Well then, give them the points now.
Well, Nathan,
when you're reduced to the XG to defend your team.
I'm not. I don't want Stephen Gerrard as the manager long term. I'm not actually here to. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. But I think that credit where it's due, it was a better performance than I expected. I actually expected them to get rolled over 3-0 and not create any chances, but they did create chances, and they did seem to have, he dropped Coutinho, fair enough, looked like he was having difficulty doing that on a consistent basis, that whenever he kind of needed something or felt like he needed the big moments in the game, and the way he talks about it is always big moments. Oh, I need big moments for my big players. Actually you don't. You need a style of play and a philosophy and a belief system, and you need to create chances. You need to have an idea about how those chances are going to be created. Tyrone Mings makes a mistake for the first one, and then the second one, they're blaming Emi Martinez, but it is one of those ones where the ball moves in the middle of the air.
It's a cracking free kick.
So,
cracking job.
I actually don't think this is the worst it's been for Villa, and the atmosphere wasn't as toxic as it might have been, I think, because they created chances.
Well, they created a lot of chances. Chelsea had to make a double substitution at the break because they were getting cut open so often. And maybe it's a different game if Chilwell gets sent off. It was a really, really bad tackle on Ramsey in the first half. You need those sort of decisions to go in your favour when you're playing a team of Chelsea's quality. So yeah, they created chances, but what is it, 1 win in 7 now? They need to turn this around quickly, and a lot of these clubs, I'm sure, probably the likes of Southampton as well, are wondering, do we go before the international break and then you give that manager a month on the training ground where a lot of the players will be there, the vast majority of players will be there, or do you hope that they can somehow turn it around over the winter break and come back in December fully refreshed?
You get rid of him if you've got a much better option. That's it can't just be knee-jerk. Okay, who's available now? They have to have a plan in place to go, okay, we have agreed backroom team, we have agreed costs, we have agreed transfer strategy with the next manager, whoever that might be. Or there's a world-class young coach, the next Graham Potter is out there somewhere, and they're like, okay, we have our eyes on this guy. You would expect Christian Purslow has been around football for a long time to know who the best young coaches in world football are, and also who the superpower managers are who might be like, yeah, I'm interested in this project, but I want full control over this, or this is going to be the person who scouts and recruits for me.
Well, the next 3 games would surely say a lot. They've got Fulham away on Thursday night. They play Brentford at home next Sunday, and then they've got Newcastle away before they take on Manchester United. Those Fulham games, that game against Fulham and Brentford, you need 4 points from them.
Yeah, you do. And, Tennis Tank says, good thinking, fellas. There should be zero tolerance. This is about, really, people going onto the sideline should be in the performance rankings, but it's kind of too serious in a way for us, maybe even, I don't know. The big news...
Ger, at least some people go onto the sideline, don't just sit in their car watching, their kids out there suffering in the rain.
Well, as I said, there's no point in us all being miserable, is there? The big news of the weekend, Diego Maradona Doherty is back, says Briar.
That was he should be in the green. Did you see the hug? It was one of those uncomfortable hugs where Antonio Conte wrapped the arms around him, then sort of shook the head in a passive-aggressive way. But you're my boy, Matt. I told you could do this.
How long will he be his boy? Is there 2 more games left?
One more game left. It was he was very good, but Emerson Royal does seem to be his favourite son in that right back position. Came straight back in the Champions League, but there's a lot of games they're playing. Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, constantly between now.
Yeah, so. I like it. Change the team up. Fresh legs, fresh energy. Jack 2022 says TJ Reid in the green consistently delivers club and county. Ballyhale 5 in a row. I know club not as popular, but deserves mention. Paul Murphy for East Kerry was unreal. I did see Owen Sheehan had the laptop up in Mexico watching the. In the end, it was a bit of a damn squib. It was interesting though. Eddie Brennan was tweeting that the debate is over. TJ Reid is the greatest of all time. It's that was interesting.
The next Kilkenny reunion will be interesting.
Yeah. Shefflin's like, huh?
What? Huh? Yeah. Henry was in the dressing room before on Friday as well, talking to the Ballyhale players. Obviously a very emotional occasion for Ballyhale as well. 5 in a row. So TJ, we'll have to do the ultimate rundown. We need different criteria to decide. Is it just between TJ and Henry? Like, if it is, it's a bit insane. Well, that the two greatest hurlers of all time come from the same tiny little village.
Well, DJ was on the... DJ's...
It's a good point. Neither TJ or Henry made the Kilkenny Mount Rushmore.
Maybe that needs revisited. Maybe that we could go back to that one. Aina Carroll says the A-team on this morning. Surely Shane Walsh in the green. Booed every time he got the ball. Man of the match. Medal in the pocket. Vindicated. I saw somebody referring to him as Terry Butcher style headdress, and I was like, I wonder, does that reference land with a lot of people?
I brought this up in commentary last week. Jordan Ayew ended up with it. I mentioned this to Brian Kerr. We need a more modern comparison, because the automatic reaction for everybody of our age is Terry Butcher style.
Yeah.
But who is the modern version? So somebody who's 25 who's never heard of Terry Butcher.
Yeah. Did any lad ever have a bandage covered in blood in a match? That's who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Go on. Next.
In the amber, the Connacht Football Championship. In fact, just the GAA Championships. I was out after standing on the sideline in a polite manner on Saturday morning. I got in my car on Saturday afternoon, flicking through the stations, ad break on News Talk, so just flicking through to see what's happening. Next thing I hear, Mayo will play Ross. What Mayo will play Roscommon in what now? In what now? Is this the talking about the league? The fixtures out for the league? Oh no! It turns out the draws for the GAA Championships were on Saturday afternoon. That's next summer's GAA Championship, well, next spring's GAA Championship. And yes, the Connacht football draw is, I would say, the most interesting one of all, where on the one side you have Galway, Mayo and Roscommon, and then on the other side you got everybody else. The last time this happened, London got to the final back in 2013.
All right. And what would that happen? Why does this matter, Nathan?
Well, it matters more than ever because it means that one of London, New York, Leitrim or Sligo are going to play in the All-Ireland Series next year. So, as we know, the top 16...
Well, that makes sense. That one of the Division 4 teams could end up being ranked higher than a Division 2 team. But that was the whole problem with Proposal B. They shot it down on the basis that something like this might happen, and lo and behold, it happened with your shitty system.
Well, that is exactly...
Well done. You killed something much better, and now you've got something completely rubbish. But
that
anyway.
is exactly what will happen. The two teams that start this season in Division 2 but are relegated are not going to be in the top 16. Now, they knew that anyways. But it does mean that there are potentially teams higher up the rankings in Division 2 who may not be guaranteed a place in the All-Ireland Series next year. The reason for this, so Tailteann Cup winners automatically get in, which means Westmeath are in. Westmeath are a Division 3 team, and one of those teams in Connacht, because all the provincial finalists get into the All-Ireland Series. Now, the ideal scenario for this, and we spoke about this even with Westmeath last year, is that a team in Division 3 has a really good league campaign. They win all their games, they win Division 3, they've a good provincial championship, they've got a load of momentum, and they're going into the All-Ireland Series, and they get a real opportunity to test themselves against better opposition. Probably not going to qualify, but get an opportunity to test themselves against Dublin or Kerry or Tyrone and see what it's like against the Division 1 teams and progress. It's not set up for this scenario, and we don't know what Leitrim and Sligo will do. Both of them have a lot of ambition, but
they would both really benefit from the Tailteann Cup and the groups in the Tailteann Cup next year. Now what's going to happen is that whoever comes through in that draw are going to be massive double-digit point underdogs against Division 1 teams, and
it's going to make the draw somewhat lopsided because they're going to be second seeds in the draw for the round-robin series because they're the beaten provincial finalists. But you could have a scenario where one of these Connacht teams doesn't have a particularly good league campaign, stays in Division 4, they win their semi-final, they take an almighty beating in the Connacht final, and then they have to go out again with no momentum at all into an All-Ireland series. So it doesn't make any sense. Like there is a slight possibility that Mayo, Galway, Roscommon end up being relegated from Division 1 and more teams from Division 3 or Division 4 get to provincial finals and they don't find their way into an All-Ireland series. It's highly, highly unlikely because, again, there's still 14 places up for grabs there. I think they'll all be fine. But does it change the way they look at the championship now that they're not going to be top seeds? Remember, these seeds are probably going to be fourth seeds now, so you're definitely going to have a group of death, it feels, automatically, which is maybe no bad thing. And I think most people, and Sean Kavanagh was he was great on the draw actually, because he just constantly kept saying this is basically all a lot of nonsense. Like why is this being allowed to happen? The Munster draw happened. He's like who cares? Like, really? It was Limerick and Kerry were seeded, but Cork and Kerry are on opposite sides of the draw. So if it goes,
Sandy.
No, and Cork have to play Clare, so who knows?
It's the teams at the bottom of Division 2 who are going to struggle to qualify for...
Well, it also means that the team that wins Division 3, if it's not Westmeath, won't get through now to an All-Ireland series. So, you don't get to build that momentum. So, listen, it's too early to be having this draw. Anyways, like if you're Kildare...
Well, it's too early. They've had it now so that no one is paying any attention to it, so nobody realises what's happened.
Well, you should pay attention, because Kildare might be one of those counties under a bit of pressure here. They're on the same side of the draw as Dublin in the Leinster Championship. They're in Division 2 as well, so they're one of those teams who could potentially lose out.
So now actually their league is the single most important thing for them next season, as opposed to the Championship being. So it has all this massive unintended consequences where, we're going to have the Dubs on the road to Carrick and Shannon. It'll be a great occasion, and it'll be, not actually a real opportunity for Leitrim to measure their progress against teams of a similar standard. Whereas actually last year we saw teams of a similar standard, they had great games. But anyway, sure, look. That's because the provincial championships, just in case anybody is uncertain, the provincial councils clung to their power like limpets. And as a result, we now have these provincial championships being of more importance and more significance than next season's championship. The next season's... look at you know what I'm talking about.
But here, the provincial champ, like in Connacht, they might be delighted. They've got Mayo against Roscommon, first day out. Kevin McStay Derby, imagine the hype and the buzz. The winners of that play Galway in a semi-final, another massive crowd, and then you got a Connacht final where you're always going to get a big crowd. So,
are you? Maybe you will. And sure, they don't care what happens after that, do they?
On we roll.
7:53 this morning. Right, we need greens.
First up in the green, Shelbourne into the FAI Cup final for the first time in 11 years. Haven't won the Cup since the year 2000, since the turn of the century, but Duffer has brought them back to the big time. Obviously, the performance and the result is important, but I think it was Duffer's post-match interview yesterday that it's not all about him. Have we got Duffer's post-match interview? Let's listen to what Duffer had to say after the game.
Listen, I'll have to change my mindset, because all I've said all along was get to the final, get to the final. I never addressed whether winning the final. So the guys, the staff, myself alone, we'll have to change that mindset. Yeah, we're in it to win it now. But listen, we've won. We shouldn't be here. Little old shells, as people call us. Everyone hates us, I think. We're in the division for another year, and we're in a final. Hey, it doesn't get any better.
Well done.
Thanks, Tony.
There you go.
Little old shells. Everyone hates us. I think you're wrong, Damien. Does anybody hate Shells? Aside from, maybe Bulls fans or Pats fans, does anybody really hate Shells? No, they don't. I think actually Shells, for your neutral fan now, with Duffer there, people want them to do well, but he's obviously trying to build some sort of a siege mentality. It is straight out of the Jose Mourinho playbook. Like, he learned a lot from Jose Mourinho. He is controlling the post-match talking points constantly. He knows exactly that everything he says will be picked up, and he's trying to get into his players. Nobody likes us. We're not going out in the FAI Cup final, and 31 counties, 31 places. Everyone wants us to win
Derry will be
this.
strong favourites for the final.
Derry will be strong favourites. Like, it's a huge achievement for Shells to get back in. Like, he was playing down expectations at the start of the season. Like, they were just promoted, but they've survived comfortably. A couple of better results over the last few weeks, and maybe they could have started looking up a little bit more in the league table and push for a position in the top 5.
They've had some big results as well. They've had, in one-off games, they've proven that they're actually capable of beating the best teams.
Well, exactly, and they should have beaten Shamrock Rovers, last week out in Tala, beaten by a last-minute goal. But now they're in a cup final. Damien Duff said that was the aim, to get to a cup final. Now they need to go and win it. I think it's a good cup final, in terms of getting a big crowd. Derry have a massive support. I think anybody with any interest in Shells will go there. I'd imagine a lot of neutrals will want to see what it's like. It was always probably going to be this way once the draw was made, where you had Shells and Derry on opposite sides, and Derry just got over the line against Treaty. Shells made hard enough work of it against Waterford yesterday. But yeah, like Duffer, He's all in on this, as he
And
keeps
his box
saying.
office, yeah.
He is all in on this.
It's clearly something, exactly, and he's obviously I think was somebody saying he's not sleeping very well at the moment. Like, I really hope he sticks around for into the medium term. Like 3-5 years of Duffer in the league would really help transform what people think of it and as a career path. And like, you know, he's not doing it for the money. He's doing it because he loves football and giving back in a way that it'd be great to see loads of his contemporaries give back to the league and say, yeah, this is a great place for me to earn my stripes and to, you know, pay it forward. So he's been very successful at it. Right, Arsenal in the green, also in the green Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool and Arsenal. We don't usually have two teams in there, but Arsenal are top of the Premier League. Manchester City were beaten yesterday, so they're looking a bit comfortable at top. I said it before, it's such a shame. Arsenal, Manchester City should have been on Wednesday night. But because of the Queen, we don't get that game, and it's been pushed right back because it would have been a real opportunity for Arsenal to put some daylight between themselves and Manchester City. Liverpool are back, their best performance of the season by an absolute mile. It felt from pretty much the first minute as though this was the Liverpool of old, 6 months ago, 3 months ago.
There was not giving away a goal in the first minute. Turns out that's good for you.
Well, exactly. There was a real intensity to everything that they did. It was the front four pressing right up in Manchester City, not giving them any time in the ball, blocking the supply lines to Haaland. Gomez and Van Dijk were exceptional. Gomez got man of the match, but Van Dijk, I thought, was the best player on the pitch by a mile. The fact that his range of passing, which we haven't seen as often, as you don't get the two fullbacks involved as much as they did, but because they had to sit so deep to make sure that there was no space for Haaland, they were so reliant on Van Dijk being able to pick out those 70, 80-yard crossfield balls to James Milner, at right back, who didn't really put a foot wrong either. And it did feel like watching Liverpool at their very, very best again, which raises questions as to, is it a mentality thing? Like, can they get back up again against West Ham on Wednesday night? Like, they have to, because that was the genius of Liverpool over the last 5 years, is that they somehow managed to turn up with that intensity all the time, week in, week out.
Losing the Champions League final, it's a strong possibility. It gives you a hangover. Like, it's a very natural human thing. I was like, oh my God, look how far we went. We went to the last game of the season in all the competitions, and we ended up really with nothing important to show for it. I can see how in the middle of the team there's just this kind of broken heart that needs some time to heal. Possibly. Now, football moves fast. You don't really get time to heal, but maybe we didn't think of that.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's a season gone. Maybe it's not. Maybe this kick-starts them, and we know
they're still in the Champions League.
We know. Well, they still have Champions League, and we know that Liverpool can go on a run. Like, they've done it consistently, and it was actually just brilliant to watch that game yesterday, because these matches have elevated the Premier League to a whole new level over the past 4 or 5 years, and it felt as though this might be the one where it starts to fall apart. But it was every bit as good and intense as any of them that we've seen over the last few years. Almost all the big names stepped up, like Salah's goal. When you watch the angle from behind, how he manages to take that down while spinning away,
having had a miss,
João Cancelo, having had that miss earlier on, that was an insane sort of 10-minute spell.
Give me 10 seconds on Arsenal here before the Arsenal, because the Arsenal fans have already got the comments written. So
they were fortunate, it turned out. VAR, I don't know if you saw this, where the game was delayed for 40 minutes and everyone's like, just get on with the game, it doesn't matter about VAR, which I would agree with. Like, if the VAR doesn't work and there's a power failure and the referee, just get on with the game and do it. Thank Christ for Arsenal, they managed to get the VAR working. So Patrick Bamford misses a penalty. Apparently Leeds were very good in the second half, and then right in the end, deep into injury time, Gabriel gets sent off, gives away a penalty. VAR, it was a farcical decision. Patrick, I don't know if you saw this, Gabriel is sort of standing there, and Patrick Bamford comes up and rams himself into him, sends Gabriel flying. As he's on the ground falling backwards, his sort of foot goes up towards Patrick Bamford, who throws himself to the ground in agony. Straight red card for Gabriel, penalty for Leeds, and then VAR intervened and thought, actually, Gabriel doesn't touch him here, and Patrick Bamford is the one who was at fault. So, listen, there's a big opportunity.
Is what I hear. VAR is in the green.
But there's a big opportunity here for Arsenal. As I said, I think they are a really quality side, and there are flaws in this Manchester City team.
Okay, that's this week's Gillette Labs Performance Rankings.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.